నమస్తే అన్న.
అన్న నమస్తే.
ఒక్కసారి రెండు అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి మైక్ అండ్ వీడియో. అండ్ ప్లీజ్ రికగ్నైజ్ Reddy 9 Prime, whoever it is.
బన్నీ ఫేస్బుక్ ఏమైంది ప్రాబ్లమా?
హలో,
ఒక్క సెకండ్ సార్.
ప్రొఫెసర్
నమస్తే అన్న.
నమస్తే.
గుడ్
ఈవినింగ్ సార్. Hi, Madhok, Rukmini.
లైవ్ షో స్టార్ట్ అయినప్పుడు
Sorry for the delay.
No, sir.
Yeah.
ఏమైంది?
Please start. No?
And what we planned is discussed. Meanwhile, other participants join.
Yeah.
I have a PowerPoint presentation which I used to make in 2010 and 11 on climate change and India Action Plan.
Okay.
So I will just go ahead with the India Action Plan prior to Paris Agreement.
Sure.
And then Paris Agreement, and after the Paris Agreement, Rukmini is there to give us the info on what India has initiated.
Sure.
So
So please carry on.
before and after Paris Agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm just waiting for Dr. Shiv Prasad's green signal, to launch. And he has not connected this online actually. Okay.
Oh, yeah. My compliments to Rukmini Madhok for taking the initiative. We wholeheartedly welcome your initiative.
Thank you, sir.
And that's how it should be. So, thank you so much.
Welcome to Dikshita. Dr. Shiv Prasad garu. So how was the day, Anna?
Very busy. Very busy. And actually, I was from 7:30 onwards, I was almost connected. As you rightly pointed out, I was connecting to tomorrow's. So we are all, particularly professors, and we are likely to be absent. నీకు ఆగుతుందో ఒక సినిమా వచ్చింది అప్పుడు
Absent-minded professor. Flower. But his invention was flubber. That was in 1960s movie. That was. His car flies in the air. That was Deepak Takis.
యా దీపక్
We should also look for some Panchayat presidents to join us for this climate change marathon.
నెక్స్ట్ టైం I'll let you. Tomorrow I'll tell them.
We need to.
Yeah, but కొంచెం సమ్మింగ్ అప్లో తెలుగు చెప్పాలి.
Panchayat presidents for the regional language we don't go to. Because I have a presentation in Telugu also.
Very good.
So we can use that for the audience.
So
Chandrasekhar, welcome sir. Please identify yourself, unmute your mic and video. Chandrasekhar, Gopinath, Dikshita, Reddy 9 Prime.
Redmi.
Redmi 9 Prime. And Dr. Shiv Prasad garu, we are waiting for your green signal. Interestingly,
Yes, sir. We are live Facebook, sir. There was some technical problem with Facebook. Now we are live Facebook and YouTube also.
Okay, then. Namaskar, good evening, and welcome to climate change episode series of episodes, which we planned keeping the aim to submit some kind of a report, request report to COP26. And particularly, we are encouraging the youngsters to come out with the presentations. So this is the time for the youngsters to understand the dynamics of climate change in terms of human survival and life form survival and development, and how they connect to the entire global conventions and conferences, and which may also help them to niche their own career path. That is most important to understand. So today, I welcome Professor Purushotham Reddy, Dr. Shiv Prasad, and above all, today's speaker, Rukmini Madhok from Symbiosis Law College. Welcome, Rukmini Madhok. And to all the participants. Today, the schedule is the National Action Plan we had even before the Paris Agreement. Not that only after the Paris Agreement, Indian government started the action plan. But Paris Agreement has, it shifted the entire, it's a great paradigm shift after the Paris Agreement. Because before the Paris Agreement, it was only qualitative, approaches. But Paris Agreement emphasized on quantitative, achievements and setting up the measurable benchmarks for progressive monitoring. That is the great thing. And above all, Paris Agreement also is a legally binding agreement at global. So no country which signs this can withdraw. Of course, unfortunately, America withdrew and again joined. Let us look into what kind of an action plans we had prior to the Paris Agreement. Briefly, we will go through this. And give me just 1 minute, half minute. I will try to connect the PowerPoint presentation, please. Hope everybody can see the PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
This was the PowerPoint presentation I used to make at State Human Resources Development Training Center, which is popularly known as Dr. MCHRDA, Dr. Marichanna Reddy Human Resources Development Center. And actually, 2008, Government of India started the action plan, and from 2010 onwards, I was doing this to the state government officers at the state level training institute. Sharing both, climate change, national action plan, best practices from outside the India, and adaptation techniques in those days. But I'm not going into the best practices and the adaptation techniques which I used to make, but I'm focusing more on Indian scenario before Paris Agreement. Okay, this was the diversified climatic zones of India, where you have semi-arid, arid zones, cold regions of north and northeast. So these are all the issues, and then our challenges. The drinking water issues, growing. Climate. Our challenges are, both. We have challenges like some areas India experiences heavy floods, rains, and some areas majority of the areas it faces drought conditions, soil moisture depletion, which is crucial for arid and semi-arid crops, metaparanthal, what we call dry land areas. The challenge is, India will have to produce 300 million tons. This is what everybody says, to feed her 1.5 billion population by 2050. So we have exhausted all our irrigation sources, and we are trying to create, a new strategies in the irrigations, particularly the like one, Kaleshwaram project of Telangana, which still to be evaluated and for a better adaptation. National strategy. First, adapt to climate change, ecologically sustainability of India's development path, vision to create prosperous but not wasteful society, self-sustaining economy. Beauty is people sitting in Delhi, they do a lot of homework and come out with national action. Climate change issues are multifaceted and calls for multi-dimensional approach through institutional collaboration. This is what, since I was addressing the officers coming from different departments, I promote convergence and inclusive growth. Whether it is before the Paris Agreement or after the Paris Agreement, the crucial point is, are we able to create the convergence for sustainability and inclusive growth? This is most important. You see, what is happening, let us look at it. I do not want to. You see, action mission, solar mission, enhanced energy efficiency. To what extent? Even energy auditing, we could not complete it even 20% across the country. Sustainable habitat. So the kind of urbanization is leading to more disasters. And where is the sustainable habitat? In principle, in all the urban development planning, water mission, sustaining Himalayan ecosystem, green India, sustainable agriculture, strategic knowledge on climate change. Is anybody discussing on it? These are the 7 issues the national mission was constituted or established prior to Paris, agreement. This is most important. People should understand, but to what extent? After the Paris agreement, we also had, elections both at the state and none of these 7 issues have gone into the political agenda. Now, no political part. Solar mission. Promote solar thermal technologies, increasing production of photovoltaic, deploying at least international collaborations. Yes, there is some progress in the solar mission. Enhanced energy efficiency is very poor in our country. We are masters in energy production, but we are very poor in energy distribution and energy efficiency. So there are a couple of things where they have replaced the energy efficient bulbs and other things, but there is a lot way to go. And technically we have to think of waste heat recovery technologies in this direction, but it has not gone. Let us look into the national water mission. 20% efficiency in water use. Is it happening? Even after Paris Agreement and our commitment? No. We are bringing waters to cities from far off places, and we are not looking into the efficiency in the water usage. Efficiency in the water usage calls for some kind of a circular loops in the water management. It is not that you kill the sustainability of the local reservoirs and local water bodies, catchments, and bring water from the outside. Telangana is already facing this problem after the Kaleshwaram, and the floods are aggravating in Telangana. Okay. Well, people are also talking about rainwater harvesting, Jal Shakti and all. Uh, does it really went seriously into the planning of the urban water supply systems? To what extent is there any assessment and that how much we need to invest on the rainwater harvesting so that we can save pumping of water and energy in the conventional water systems, and then sustaining Himalayan ecosystem. This is a big joke in our country. We want to sustain the Himalayan ecosystem through a national mission agenda. At the same time, the country has more than 250 micro-hydel projects, both, including in the northeast and the northeast. And the disasters in the Himalayan regions, the glacial avalanches is increasing year by year. So there is no, uh, synchronizing in between. I do not see any convergence among the departments and the ministries as far as sustaining Himalayan ecosystems is concerned, which was part of the national vision under climate change, well established in 2008. Okay, Green India afforestation. As expanding forest cover from 23 to 33%, but the ground reality is we are opening up more roads and mining areas in the forest areas. We need to really look into quantifying this. And then sustainable agriculture. Agriculture still we follow the flood irrigation system. You see, it is not a great thing creating reservoirs and then canal irrigation systems. The most challenging thing is how do we make the farmers, how do we make the irrigation engineers sensitize them to promote, efficient water usage in the agricultural systems. Groundwater, yes, there is no power bill, so every farmer wants to use it 24 hours. So we are killing through our national policies and state policies the resources in this country, which are aggravating the climate change directly or indirectly. And I congratulate at this particular one. I visited this village in 2011. This village is adjacent to Madanapalli Rishi Valley, actually. The interesting fact is all the houses, this village has 100% solar roofs. 100% Tetuvaripalli. This is Tetuvaripalli. Because of my cataract, I am unable to read this, but this is Tetuvaripalli. 100% solar cookers. And interestingly, when the entire village was solar cookers and all, the villagers asked, you see, we get more sunlight and we are only using for half an hour for cooking our food stuff. What we should do for the rest of the day? This is very interesting. So these are all, dairy-rich villages. So these women were trained in making cookies. So the biscuits or the cookies manufactured in these villages go to Austria, because the Austrian students who were studying in Rishi Valley School, they promoted this 100% solar cooker. Today, the biscuits and cookies, they go from Tetuvaripalli to Austria. So you can change the economy, you can change the lifestyles, you can improve the quality of life through small initiatives. But we also need system support for replication of such initiatives and encourage. A government of India focusing more on the solar energy and biogas, it's almost went into the background. And then drought mitigation. Yes, drought mitigation and traditional mulching practices, we are not looking. And then in the drought and semi-arid regions, silvipastoral development like in Rajasthan or in the dryland areas of Telangana and Karnataka, Tamil Nadu. Where I think strategic knowledge for climate change, gain better understanding of climate change, impact challenges. How do we improve this? How we can make the youngsters coming from different diversified disciplines to connect themselves to climate change, and how do they share? I mean, do you have the climate? And I congratulate here one of the scientists from Agricultural University, Telangana Agricultural University. He created hundreds of farmer clubs under climate change. So we need to have people like him. Other programs, energy efficiency, power generation, renewable energy. These are all the missions and sustainable habitat. I could take only one or two, but these are all European things. Unfortunately, I have not found any best practice in the sustainable habitat of urban areas. That is still lacking. And many people like me across the state and the country and the regions, we are trying to motivate and sensitize the people on through education and training on climate change. Thank you so much for your patience hearing. This was the scenario mostly on the qualitative aspect of it, but still, the issues like Himalayan restoration of the Himalayan ecosystems and Himalayan ecosystems and other things, they were, they were there even before the Paris Agreement. So we need to look into these aspects of it. How we could take these things and bring out a quantifiable, measurable benchmarks after the Paris Agreement. So any question, anything, we can go for some 5 to 10 minutes at this time. And then I invite Rukmini to, give a talk on Paris Agreement's, follow-up of India's initiatives. Okay.
Thank you, Subba.
Thank you.
No, I think we'll go for Rukmini's presentation.
Okay. I invite Rukmini, the dynamic student from Symbiosis Law College, to make the presentation on India initiative. I am making you the host. Okay.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir.
Sorry.
You made Akhilja, na? As
By mistake this happened actually. I'm trying. What is this pin? Remove the pin. Akhilja. Akhil. Akhil. Akhilja.
Football game.
Akhilja.
Good evening, sir.
Please, by mistake I made you the host. Please make Rukmini the host.
Okay.
Please. Go to Rukmini's name. The cursor will show you more.
Yes, sir.
At the
Yes,
more,
sir.
you click more and you get options.
Yes, sir.
Make her host, please.
More. Make horse first. Yes.
Oh, got it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Rukmini, you're the host.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I'll just show you. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, good evening, everyone. I'll be talking on India's initiatives in the Paris Agreement and the steps that our country has taken towards international sustainable goals. Um, Paris Agreement is mentioned whenever someone speaks about climate change or global warming. Why is that so? Why is Paris Agreement so important? Mostly because of human actions, the concentration of gases like CO2, methane, etc., has increased in the Earth's atmosphere, resulted in a phenomena called the greenhouse effect. Because of greenhouse effect, the average global temperature has increased, which is known as global warming. The only way to deal with the change in climate is to reduce the emission of said greenhouse gases. In short, the Paris Agreement is an international agreement to combat climate change. From 30th November to 11th December 2015, the governments of 195 nations gathered in Paris, France, and discussed a possible new global agreement on climate change aimed at reducing global greenhouse emissions and thus to reduce the threat of dangerous climate change. The 32-page Climate Paris Agreement with 29 articles is widely recognized as a historic deal to stop global warming. What are the aims of this agreement? The Paris Agreement's central aim is to strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change by keeping a global temperature rise this century well below 2 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels and to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase even further to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Additionally, the agreement aims to increase the ability of countries to deal with the impacts of climate change and at making financial flows consistent with the low GHG emissions in a climate resilient pathway. It aims the uh, ability of a country to deal with climate change and by advising strategies for the same. Now, coming to the main topic, how has India contributed to the Paris Agreement over since it became a member to it? India's INDC included a reduction in the emissions intensity of its GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030 from 2005 level. India has also pledged to create an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of CO2 equivalent through additional forest and tree cover by 2030. India will anchor a global solar alliance, INSPA, International Agency for Solar Policy and Application, of all countries located between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. In terms of policies on how India has contributed while addressing a side meeting on climate change at the G20 summit, Prime Minister Modi said that India is not only meeting targets set at the Paris Agreement, but also exceeding them while calling for an integrated, comprehensive, and holistic way to tackling climate change. In the G20 summit, Modi also said that India aims to restore around 26 million hectares of degraded land by 2030. Ahead of the Paris Climate Summit, Environmental Minister Prakash Javadekar said, climate change hasn't happened in a day. It clearly is a result of historical emissions over 100 years. The US has had 25% of historical emissions, China 13, and India only 3%. While India hasn't been part of the problem, so to say, but as a responsible nation, it is part of the solution. Currently, India is contributing only 6.8% of global emissions, and its per capita emissions are only 1.9 tons. The Modi government has repeatedly touted schemes as national plans on climate change, the National Clean Air Program, Swachh Bharat Mission, Pradhan Mantri Ujjwal Yojana, and many others, saying that they are aimed at helping India reach their climate goals. The Swachh Bharat mission was one that gained widespread recognition. India has installed capacity of renewable energy has also increased by 226% in the past 5 years to over 89 GW now. India has a target of increasing installed renewable energy capacity to 450 GW by 2030. The Paris Agreement versus Kyoto Protocol. The Kyoto Protocol in 1997 was also aimed at bettering the environment and to reaching better environmentally sustainable goals. Now, what's the difference between them? Paris Agreement is the world's first comprehensive climate agreement where developed and developing countries were party to Kyoto Protocol. Developing countries were not mandated to reduce their emissions. This means that while Paris Agreement is legally binding to all parties, Kyoto Protocol was not. Thus, Paris Agreement is one such agreement that holds all nations accountable, and the laws that are signed here and agreed by all member nations bind them towards making the decision in the desired direction. Then criticism about the Paris Agreement. Now, any agreement comes not without its criticism. According to a study published in Nature on June 2016, current country pledges are too low to lead to a temperature rise below the Paris Agreement temperature limit. Even a UNFCCC report had observed that even if all pledges made by 197 countries that are signatory to the Paris Pact were fulfilled, which firstly is very unlikely, but even if it did happen, it would be insufficient to meet the conservative goal of keeping global temperature rise within the 2 degrees Celsius threshold. Most of the agreement consists of promises or aims and no firm commitments. The starting point of $100 billion per year remains under 8% of the worldwide declared military spending each year, which in itself speaks a lot about a country's priorities. Since the only mechanism remains voluntary national caps on emissions without even any guidance on how stringent those caps will need to be, it is hard to be optimistic that these goals are likely to be achieved. However, the Paris Agreement works a lot on name and shame. A lot of debate goes around saying that the developed countries were part of the problem, as mentioned above, and that they caused a lot of the environmental damage that the developing countries are paying for. And most of the times, a lot of initiatives taken by the legislature are politically inclined and not in the right spirit. However, while it does have its criticisms, the Paris Agreement isn't static. It is designed to boost countries, pushing them towards making directions in the right direction. And eventually, one after the other, these conventions only remind countries time and again the importance of sustainable living and the reality of climate change. Ultimately, it depends on nation states to initiate changes and make a difference. These conventions are initiated at an international level, and international law is based on voluntary agreement, and therefore there is no global police as such to make such conventions or laws at an international level enforceable. So, unless and until there is the encouragement to help climate change within a country, these conventions only suggest what can be done and are seen as an advisory book. However, most change ultimately depends on how the countries take it. Thank you so much.
So make me host.
Yes, sure.
Thanks and congratulations, Rukmini, for bringing out the salient, features of the Indian initiatives after the Paris.
Most welcome, sir. Most welcome.
And most important thing is the Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. It gives a more, it takes more on the legal binding of it. And we have a speaker tomorrow who is throwing more light on articles of Paris Agreement. And I welcome Professor Purushotham, and I also would like to share that I have another PPT which adds to the Rukmini's findings and selling features. Professor Purushotham.
Yeah, at the outset, my compliments to Rukmini Madhok.
Thank you, sir.
It's an excellent presentation. And really, I appreciate you and your colleagues and your friends. All of you are so talented. But I begin to develop hope among these youngsters can definitely address climate issues.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So it has been very lucid presentation. And all the information that you have given is very important. So my compliments, and I would request Subba to this PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you. Give me 1 minute, and then. Hope everybody can see the screen.
Yes.
This is,
Yes, yes.
I'm going very briefly.
Yes,
Some
sir.
points. Government has formed a high-level inter-ministerial committee for the implementation of Paris Agreement on Climate Change 2015. We do not hear much about this committee. This committee is called the Formation of Apex Committee for Implementation of Paris Agreement, AIPA. Okay? And the Paris Accord, you know what Rukmini said it all. I do not want to go. The goal of the Paris Agreement also. Okay? But if you look into India, the agreement talks about 2020. Carbon dioxide emissions 20%, work in renewable energy 20%, target to increase energy efficiency 20%. To what extent we have reached these 2020s, or 5 years may be very short time for any country to do it, particularly country like India with COVID epidemic. But could we establish the mechanisms to reach this? That is most important. Okay, so which we are still struggling to look into it. India COP21. Okay, despite the growing demands, India has pledged. Okay, all these things Rukmini well explained. India expects developed countries to mobilize $100 billion annually by 2020 for mitigation and adaptation in developing countries. This is most important, Rukmini, and also for the students of law. All the global conferences, they go on negotiations. And negotiations is part of a legal system. Mechanism, legal education, basically. So you want me to do this? What is that you are going to do? So what is that I am taking from this? Reducing the dependence on fossil fuel. Okay, it says that. You see, the 3 points which Paris Agreement said 2020, but there are several issues in that, and which were elaborately brought down prior to the Paris Commission Agreement in National Mission of India on climate change. Increasing, protecting the Himalayan regions, all that. But to what extent? Is it qualitative? Qualitative doesn't give us any, doesn't lead to any, concrete, firm steps. India's status of current emissions. United Nations report released earlier this year stated that India's per capita emissions are actually 60% lower than the global. You see, we are only comparing this. We need absolute yardsticks. It's like that Subbarao is little better than Shiv Prasad Reddy. Shiv Prasad Reddy is little good than. What is little and what is little? We need to have some kind of a, the forests have increased. Where it has increased? We are encroaching even the core areas of the forest in this country. The emission in the country grew 1.4% in 2019, much lower than its average 3.2. Okay? Let us see in which sector. Is it in the automobile sector? Is it in the industrial sector? Is it in the domestic sector? Is it in the emissions coming from the lakes and contaminated water bodies? Some of the measures taken by India to control emissions. National Solar Mission. Okay, solar mission is an alternative for thermal power. Okay? And it may reduce the emissions coming from the thermal, but it may not, from the other sectors. We need to look into it. We need to have some kind of a white paper. We must have some kind of a, measurable indicators. And these are the things, which already Rukmini pointed out, okay, on the infrastructure and all. But the kind of urban growth that is happening, I do not think that we will be able to reach the targets without proper regulating mechanisms. And the regulating authorities we have not established. We have only created an apex body at the national level. We do not have any regulating body at the state level to look into it. And more so, the gap is, okay, global level you have created, national level you have created. There is a vacuum at the state level. And these things have to go at the grassroots level. And absolutely the local governments across the country have no clue about this. So how do we take this as a larger challenge before us? How do we make the point which was emphasized by Rukmini is so valid that she said, okay, these are all voluntary binding, but people have to take a decision. It's a democratic process. People should say, okay, stop the disasters, whatever. Okay, increase the forests, cut down the emissions, look into the health aspects of it. It is for the people to take form decisions, and it is for the people to come out strongly how they want to live. Do they want to live with a quality of life which falls in line with the Paris Agreement? And if so, can people ask this, demand this as a political manifesto in the coming elections? That's a bigger challenge before everybody. People have to clear on their things. They cannot, sit and say vaguely. So these are my points, and Government of India has to come up with mechanisms for implementation, mechanisms to reach out to the people, sensitize them, mechanisms to promote small entrepreneurships in the entire climate change adaptation, technologies and methodologies, and skill development. So we are not looking into skill development as far as my knowledge goes. It largely focuses on solar panel assemblies and all other things. But there are several things which need to be promoted, which needs to be identified, which needs to develop some kind of a syllabus in the training institutes like polytechnic colleges and the different disciplines, like how policy makers like political science students, social students, and law students, how they look into the negotiations aspect of it. This is the most interesting thing is this climate change has become more popular among the students or the youngsters who are appearing for what is that UPSC civil examinations and also for the net examinations. So let us see what is the syllabus for the youngsters we are talking about. Okay, thank you so much. Anna, with your permission, can I show that video?
Yeah, please.
Which which is trying to sensitize the students on climate change syllabus.
Please.
So if climate change syllabus is only important to get through the examination or become an IAS officer, doesn't it talk more about this beyond that? So please give me time. I want to show that thing.
Please.
हेलो एवरीवन वेलकम टू डायनेमिक स्टडी। तो आज हम डिस्कस करने वाले हैं
Sorry, I think I went out and there is some problem. Let me get back. Hope you can hear me. Hello.
Yes, sir. You are audible, loud and clear.
Thank you so much. By mistake it got disconnected, and I am connecting to this video. Just give me 1 minute time, please.
हेलो एवरीवन वेलकम टू डायनेमिक स्टडी।
Why it is disconnecting? Can you hear?
Yeah, we can.
You can hear, no? This video, can you see, sir?
No.
Where are you now? Okay, sir. Share the screen. Okay. Yeah, I got it now.
Yeah, now it is.
It is. You can see.
I think it has not yet started, but the screen is there. Yeah. We lost.
You lost it.
That screen is not there.
स्टडी। तो आज हम डिस्कस करने
Can
वाले
you?
हैं नेशनल एक्शन प्लान ऑन
Yeah.
क्लाइमेट चेंज।
Now
ये
it started.
9 का टॉपिक है। अगेन बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है ये एग्जाम के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से, तो इसको हम डिटेल में डिस्कस करेंगे कि ये टॉपिक क्या है। चलिए स्टार्ट करते हैं आज की क्लास। तो सबसे पहले नेशनल जो एक्शन प्लान है ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज, इसको रिलीज किया गया था जून 2009 में, और इसका जो अनाउंसमेंट हुआ था वो आपका 2007 में इसका अनाउंसमेंट हुआ था, और 2008 में इसको रिलीज किया गया है जून 30 को। तो ये डेट है जो आपको याद रखनी है। तो बेसिकली इस प्लान को क्यों बनाया गया, देखिए क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से जो हमारी कंट्रीज में डिफरेंट सिचुएशन अराइज हो रही है, उस सिचुएशन के साथ कोप अप करने के लिए और जितनी भी प्रॉब्लम्स है उसको मिटिगेट करने के लिए, मतलब क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से जो भी डिजास्टर्स हो रहे हैं, जो भी हमारे जो एग्रीकल्चर हमारे प्रोडक्ट है वो रिड्यूस हो रहे हैं, स्पीशीज जो है वो इंडेंजर्ड हो रही है। तो ये जितने भी उसके इल इफेक्ट हैं उनको ख़त्म करने के लिए, उनके साथ मिटिगेशन करने के लिए, उनके इफेक्ट को रिड्यूस करने के लिए और क्लाइमेट चेंज के साथ हमारी कंट्री को अडेप्ट करने के लिए, इसके लिए ये नेशनल प्लान को बनाया गया है। बहुत ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट ये नेशनल प्लान था और ये 2008 में आपका लागू हुआ, और इसका अनाउंसमेंट जो था वो उन्होंने 2007 में किया था, बट इसको इसकी पॉलिसीज को, इसके फ्रेमवर्क को बनाते बनाते ऑलमोस्ट 1 ईयर लग गया। तो चलिए देखते हैं डिटेल में क्या है ये। तो ये एक्शन प्लान जो है ये इंडिया के जितने भी डेवलपमेंट और क्लाइमेट से रिलेटेड चेंज है उन पे ये फोकस करता है। मतलब जो भी हमारे यहाँ जो भी क्लाइमेट चेंजेस हो रहे हैं उसकी वजह से जो इम्पैक्ट पड़ा है हमारी सोसाइटी पे, हमारी कंट्री पे, उन सबके साथ हम किस तरीके से मिटिगेट करेंगे, हम किस तरीके से अपने आप को अडेप्ट करेंगे, क्या चेंजेस हमें लानी है अपनी कंट्रीज में, हमें अपनी पॉलिसीज में किस तरीके की चेंजेस लाने हैं, ये सारी चीज़ें इस एक्शन प्लान में बताई गई थी। द नेशनल एक्शन प्लान ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज, दैट इज NAPC, encompasses a range of measures। तो इसमें बहुत सारे ऐसे measures दिए गए हैं, बहुत सारे ऐसे actions दिए गए हैं, इसलिए इसको एक्शन प्लान बोलते हैं, क्योंकि उन एक्शंस को फॉलो करके हम जो हमारे मिशंस हैं उनको अचीव कर सकते हैं। तो बेसिकली इसमें 8 मिशंस बताए गए हैं जो कि आपको ध्यान में रखने हैं, जो कि आपको याद करने हैं। तो पहला जो है वो है आपका नेशनल सोलर मिशन। नेशनल सोलर मिशन के अंतर्गत NAPCC ने एम किया है कि वो प्रमोट करेगा डेवलपमेंट एंड यूज ऑफ सोलर एनर्जी। तो हमें पता है कि हम इससे पहले 2008 से पहले हमारा ज्यादातर फोकस किस चीज
It repeats the same thing what I said. Do you want to continue this?
पॉलिसी बनाई जिसके अंतर्गत हमें सोलर एनर्जी को डेवलप करने एंड इसकी यूज करने में हेल्प मिलेगी। इसके साथ साथ बाकी जो यूजेस है जिनको हम क्लीन एनर्जी बोलते हैं, चाहे वो आपकी विंड एनर्जी हो, चाहे वो आपकी हाइड्रो एनर्जी हो, तो इन सारी तरीकों से किस तरीके से पावर जनरेशन हो या ऑल्टरनेटिव यूजेस है उनके बारे में हम यहाँ पे बात करते हैं। मतलब नॉन रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी इतने ज्यादा आपके ऑल्टरनेटिव यूजेस हैं, किस तरीके से हम अपना जो हमारा डिपेंडेंसी है फॉसिल फ्यूल्स पे वो हम किस तरीके से खत्म करेंगे, ये सारी चीजों के बारे में नेशनल सोलर मिशन के अंदर डिस्कस किया।
Question and answer session better na ippudu.
So this is the same thing which I showed in the PPT.
Yeah.
So my purpose of showing this is, okay, these things are going popular among the competitive exams.
Yes.
But to what extent they are influencing the young generation towards this, and also the government authorities in bringing out the mechanisms for implementation is a big question mark before all of this. Okay.
I've got two things, sir, to add to this, if you
Yes.
permit me.
Yeah,
Please.
I thought these goals should have been a reality because pandemic engulfed entire world. This 1.5 years, no movement, major is transport. Even the air travel has been restricted. When such is the case, how is that we could not reach that mandated 1.5? I don't understand. That is one thing. The second aspect, in spite of lockdowns, we have seen, quoting some examples, whether it is Hyderabad, Andhra Pradesh, or elsewhere in India, how there were disasters happening, whether it is pharmaceutical industry or other industry. That invariably added to the climatic conditions, whether when they were settling down because of lockdown and all. But unfortunately, the so-called administrators who really study everything for their in their syllabus, how is that they could not understand the vital importance of not allowing such type of polluted industries to restart, or if they are starting, they should have taken precautionary measures. So such ambiguity, as we witnessed in the case of pandemic, without knowing the enemy you are fighting it, or at least you know the enemy, you know yourself, still we are not engaging ourselves. That means there is a paradigm shift in the thinking of policy makers, very much ambiguous. So don't you think this is also contributing? The world should have recovered because every mode of transport came to a halt. People were not moving out. In spite of that, why we could not achieve it?
You see, one thing is, I invite Professor Purushotham.
Just 2 points. First of all, I wish to make it very clear that what was promised at Paris, the INDCs expressed by individual countries, including India, it was to reduce emissions from 2005 level, 2005 level. And India made a commitment of reduction to the tune of 35%. Now that means really a massive, a very huge reduction. The government of India in all the 8 missions, all the 8 missions, they never mentioned that they are going to bypass the usage of coal or oil. In other words, fossil fuels. There's hardly any mention of it. So unless thermal power is reduced, India's emissions cannot be reduced. We cannot keep up our commitment. So here there is a clear-cut, the non-serious thing, and also it appears to be as if there is a conspiracy, or maybe the government of India is cheating the world, because they made a commitment, but so far we are in the 6th year. We only have 9 more years. And right now, except, what they are talking is vague. They are only talking about solar energy. And here again, we don't see people's participation. That is, not every roof in this country is going to have solar panels. Only we are a few corporates, the rich and the powerful and the mighty corporates, are going in for huge solar farms. Okay, that is fine. But it will not make an impact, because every rooftop in this country must have solar. If not rooftop, at least in the compound or the nearest to the house, there should be solar. In other words, the government should honestly withdraw from its present task of providing electricity to the people. This is happening in other countries. Whereas in India, we don't see even the glimpse of this happening. So I think we will not achieve what we have promised. And the government intentions also are not very transparent. And we don't see anything coming out of it. In fact, any democratic government, when it goes before a global conference, the government or the government representatives, they have to first assess the rising aspirations of the teeming millions. That is, they need to assess the public opinion of their country, and then go to a global conference as representative of the public. So here, unfortunately, neither there was a special session of Parliament on climate, on Paris Accord, or on this COP26, which is going to happen next month ending, and November first 10 days. So the honesty of the government, it's not just government of India, all the governments in the world. No parliament in the world has ever discussed with honesty. They are not reflective of the public opinion. As a result, we find, as I always say, that there is a yawning gap between the promise of the government and the performance and their performance. One more thing about India, which we have talked about many times. The local governments are not empowered. For example, take the case of GHMC. GHMC, when you look at the powers it has, it doesn't enjoy the power of producing power, energy. Energy comes under state government. And GHMC is supposed to be the local government of a very huge urban metropolis. So, when we extend the same to every urban metropolis in the country, the entire urban India doesn't enjoy the power. There's nothing like an energy or electricity department in the GHMC, except the routine supply and whatever street lighting, that apart, they are not producing. Similarly, when it comes to local governments, in fact, the local governments in the Gram Panchayats or the villages, the rural local governments have not been empowered to take care to improve the forests, only routine photo sessions of planting of trees, but nothing much is happening because the forests the real forests in this country, they have been reduced to what we call the periphery or and as it is as rightly pointed out by Subba, the main prime forest area is not there much, and as a result, I don't think we are going to keep the promises. So, keeping all these in mind, I feel that there should be a big debate, a wider debate, and more colleges and universities should be involved, and the entire nation, because we have very big stakes, rising sea levels and, erratic rainfall, floods in the cities and in the countryside, and with an immense population to feed. We are at the receiving end now. But still, our Indian political parties, none of them are concerned. Local governments are weakened. The Parliament of India has not discussed. I don't know how they are going to attend an international conference. Only a few babus from the external affairs. What are they going to speak? Whom are they representing? I think all this requires a very honest reflection on the part of the people.
Thank you, Professor Purushotham. And with your permission, I would like to invite Jharna Singh. Jharna, are you there? Jharna?
Yes, sir, I'm there.
Yeah. Few comments from your end?
Sir, not much. I actually had a very bad network issue.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, sir.
And no problem. There is no sorry at all. It's good that you could participate, and tomorrow you will have the repeat version of the same YouTube, so you
Yes,
can
sir.
also look into it. And this particular one, we are encouraging the youngsters to come forward, and those who are participating, and they will have a surprise at the end of October.
Yes.
All those who make the presentations, they will have a surprise contributions from our side, because we want the we are looking for the youngsters to exchange the baton of the relay race. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So this is an opportunity we felt, youngsters should come forward and participate in this. Okay? So
Yes, sir.
widely, spread this message among this. Thank you. I also invite Mr. Gopinath. Mr. Gopinath? Mr. Gopinath? Okay. Mr. Pawan? Mr. Pawan? Pawan Shanmukh? Okay. Dr. Shiprasad Garu, do you have anything to contribute? Because
Yes,
we will wind up and we will prepare for the tomorrow's
yes.
presentation. Okay.
Yeah, while echoing Professor Purushotham Reddy garu, what he said was, what is that we are doing with fossil fuels? There is no proper policy except carrying some babus, yes, babus, to such type of summits, and then they sign and come back. And in turn, there is no paradigm shift when it comes to the mitigation or implementation of such policies. So there is how to sensitize this. How is that people are not involved in such a massive exercise? Because every human contributes to lowering of such emissions or adding. But how is that they are not being sensitized? That is what really bothers me. And tomorrow you can watch the retelecast on Environment People Dr. TSPR channel. So Dr. TSPR channel, Citizens Dr. TSPR channel, and Environment People. Subscribe and support. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shiprasad Garu. One more, my suggestion and request to youngsters is Jarna and Rukmini. Widely, I'm also looking for, some kind of a signature campaign through this so that we can submit at least, I don't mention the number, but I am ambitious. Please think of this. All the presentations you people are making, we will come out a gist of it and submit as our appeal, a signature campaign in the COP26. So this is my, takeaway home.
Yeah, that's an excellent. Sir, I wholeheartedly second your proposal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We should do it.
Yeah, we should. What I feel across the country, we should take the signature campaign. I'm sure, I'm optimistic that our youngsters will support us in this mission. Okay. Thank you. Good night. And once again, congratulations, Rukmini, for your initiatives to come forward and look into it. And I also advise the youngsters to follow the negotiations in the media, how things are moving for the COP26. And some people are saying, postpone it. Why we should postpone? It can be made online and people can discuss. We should reach out to the people on this. The calamities are increasing. So take care, good night, and Shubhratri. Thanks for everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.